All right. I want to turn this over to our Toastmaster for the meeting, TMOM, our T-Mom for tonight. Lee
Thank you.
Dematangelo,
Thank
take it
you,
away.
Madam President and fellow Laugh Lab Storymasters. We have a full crowd today of 6. We are mighty. We might be strong, but I've always heard there was never a mom in Toastmasters. Well, there is tonight. Toastmaster of the meeting. I don't like Toastmaster of the day because the meetings are usually 1 or 2 hours and you have to be the Toastmaster all day long. I don't think so. I don't think my wrist could take that. But here we are. Sight and sound, right? The 2 strongest senses that we have. And we're going to learn all about that today from our 2 educational speakers. We also have one speaker lined up who is here, and that's Cynthia. You ready to go, Cynthia? Looks good. Okay. Give us a voice check first, Cynthia. We haven't heard you talk all meeting yet. Let's make sure you're good.
Okay, can you
You
hear me?
always sound good. Great. You look good. All right, and I guess Phil is still trying to get internet in his part of the world. I heard he just got running hot water last week where he lives, and now he's trying to get that big internet thing going. Don't worry, Phil, it's just a fad. It'll blow over. No one's going to ever use the internet again. You have sound for us, Phil? Are you able to talk? We got video on you now. We can't hear you. Not hearing you. Look at your speaker volumes and you can play with that. We'll come back to you later. All righty. Let's go down to our agenda really quick. I know we're missing one person on the agenda, but our first speaker who's going to tell us all about sound effects, Mary Morrison. Was that Phil?
Did you hear me now?
Oh, now we can hear
Yeah.
you. Good.
Okay. I had to figure out which microphone.
Excellent. Thanks, Phil. So Mary will kick us off with telling us all about sound effects. And then we will move into Kyle, who's going to tell us all about using visuals. And are we going to take a break before we do the speaker? Oh, no, we're going to do the speakers first. Okay. So then we're going to go into speaker number 1, which is Cynthia. And if Helen happens to make the meeting, she'll be our speaker number 2. And then we'll take the break. And then we'll come back and do our special evaluation sessions that we've been doing with, let's see, I guess I'm going to be the general evaluator as well, right? Or is that going to be Phil? Oh, so Phil's going to be our general evaluator. Good.
I'm on the schedule
there
for
we go.
general
Good.
evaluator.
I see that now. Okay, so Phil will introduce the various evaluators for each of our 2 speakers. And then we have some homework Kyle's going to tell us about, and then we'll wrap up the meeting. So let's get it kicked off. Our first speaker, she is not foreign to Toastmasters. She's held officer roles in the club. I'm sure she was an area director at some point. Were you ever never area director? Division? No. Division. Okay, went straight from, you were president at one point, I take it,
Yes.
up to president, and then district director, and then international director, which means she oversaw about 8 districts, correct? So that's big time stuff. And she's in our club, so we cherish that. She is going to give us a speech that's going to be from engaging humor, understanding vocal variety, 5 to 7 minutes. Is it just 5 to 7 minutes, Mary?
No, 10 to 12.
10 to 12, good. Good, I know that now. Okay. The squeak of a door, the thump thump in the dark, the caw 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 of birds, all sounds that build tension when telling a scary story. These vocal sounds without words evoke an emotional response in the listener. Distinguished Toastmaster Mary Morrison, past international director, will share tips and techniques on how to make an effective use of non-verbal sounds in her speech titled, Psst, Shh. Let's give a warm welcome to Mary Morrison, distinguished Toastmaster.
Mm. Mm. Hello, Oh, Toastmaster, I was so enjoying my morning cup of coffee. My house was beautifully clean. It was a clear sky, blue, beautiful spring day. The yard, newly mown, ready for the party taking place later that afternoon, when all family was descending on me for one of our spring gatherings. 30-some people, tons of little children outside ready to do an Easter egg hunt. That coffee tasted. But, mm, mm, mm. Something else was happening. The front windows and the back of the house, flung open the back door. I had to track this down. Clara, my neighbor, whom I loved and was the recipient of Clara's generosity with her garden. Indeed, this day, Clara was sharing with me yet another gardening experience. A pile of chicken poo delivered to fertilize her spring garden. Clara! Oh, thought to myself, actually, said out loud because it was too early for Clara to be up. What have you done? Toastmasters, so many emotions I could express through this one tiny moment in my life. These non-verbal sounds, sighs, gasps, grrrs, they communicate so much. Our emotions, our attitudes, what we think without using word or language. I have a niece who at the age of 45 remains, from the time she was born, non-verbal, meaning all she has to communicate because of a lack of development of her vocal cords are her non-verbal sounds. Look, Margaret lets us know exactly what she wants. She's an excellent communicator. We can convey through our tone, pitch, rhythm. We convey meaning, we convey emotions. We communicate quite well through all those sounds. I have a few tips for us tonight that might help as we're working through adding nonverbal sounds to our speech. I think we're all pretty skilled at it. But let me go over some of them.
Get out of the chair, I'll have you take a photo of me.
Oh, repeat. If we repetitive saying a number of times is very effective, or whatever the sound is, grr, it keeps our audience connected. It suddenly jerks our audience back into an awareness that this is something I need to pay attention to. I may tone out words, but when I use a nonverbal sound, especially one that has a pitch that's very different from what I've used before, the audience is going to pay a lot of attention. They're going to know this is something that I should pay attention to. So we anticipate this is something that I should pay attention to. And it lets me know I can laugh at that because I laughed last time it came up. So tip one, repetition. Tip 2, different inflections of the same sound. Mm. Mm. Very different. But I bet you figured out one of them was deep satisfaction and enjoyment, where the other one was what in the world is happening here? Think about all of the different sounds you could add that through their inflection add a different emotion, especially if you combine them with tip number 1, repetition. Tip number 3. Oh, Clara, what in the world were you doing? Grr. Exasperation. It lets the audience know where the tension is within the story. One of the ways to build tension in your story so that you pay more attention, we pay more attention, we pay more attention. Add the exasperation in. Go. Whoa. Oh. So many different nonverbal expressions that you could all personalize to who you are because you know what your expression is. And if you're not sure, ask a family member. What lets you know that I'm exasperated with something you've just done? Happened to me just this morning when the cup of toothbrushes flew off the counter with my granddaughters and landed on the bathroom floor just before we had to go to school. It needed to happen. Teeth clean. I had no time to sterilize. Grr, I said, and moved on with my day, but let them know completely that I was a bit exasperated. So that is tip number 3. Tip number 4, the fake. The fake feeling sorry for myself. The fake ha 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 ha. Nothing shows irony or sarcasm a little bit more than the fake. Boo. Ooh. Ooh. I'm so scared. You know, you don't really have to say much at all. You can just express so much in that sound just by expressing the sound. And exaggerate it a little bit, sure. But fake, you all know, means I know you think you were funny, and I got the joke, but the joke really wasn't funny, was it? And I'm not going to take the time to ask you explain because kind of right now, you know, I think you're an idiot more than me, getting or not getting the joke. My final tip is exaggeration. Play it up. Exaggeration. What? Grr. Any nonverbal sound you make can, with a bit of exaggeration, really increase the audience awareness that, in fact, you want them to have a strong emotional reaction in this moment because you've just conveyed to them a strong emotional reaction by exaggerating it a bit. What do you think happens in drama if we don't exaggerate just a little bit? You know, they say, fellow Toastmasters, that a picture is worth 1,000 words. I think exaggeration, exasperation, inflection, repetition, and fake emotions are priceless to whatever speech you are giving. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Mary. That was very informative and very, well, you know, as what they say, don't tell us, show us. You sounded it, which was pretty cool. I liked all that. Let's take a about 30 seconds to write some notes for Mary, if we want to give her some comments at the end of the meeting. Write down the time here. To our next speaker.
A little wine.
Okay. Oh, where did that go? Our next speaker is doing the project title, Adding Visual Impacts for Humor and Stories. When we think of crafting a captivating story or making the audience laugh, we are usually considering our text, language, and pacing. About a month before the world went into COVID lockdown, our next speaker has his eyes open to the impact of visuals in telling stories and creating laughter. Since that time, he put on his mad scientist lab coat and has been experimenting with adding visual punch whenever he is in front of an audience. Telling us about adding visual impact for humor and stories, please help me give a warm welcome to distinguished Toastmaster Kyle Hall.
It's a lot. It is still dead. Oh, well, on to experiment number 47. Oh, hello. Hello, thank you. I'm scientist. Madreford scientist. My friends call me Mad. And welcome to my lab. Welcome to my lab. I have been asked to talk to you today about using visuals, visual impact for your storytelling and your humor. So I'm going to attempt to do that. Fortunately, shortly before COVID and the world went into lockdown because that darn virus got out of my lab, sorry, I saw this keynote speaker and he used visuals in a very, very interesting way. He used humor for his punchlines. And it really impressed me. And it really changed the way I thought about using humor. And so I'm going to talk to you today about using visual impact for humor and for storytelling. Fortunately for you, as a storyteller, as a scientist, I am, of course, very organized. So I'm going to share my screen very briefly. So we're talking about experiment number 27, using visuals to impact story and humor. And there are different types of visuals that we'll be discussing. The obvious ones, of course, for any storyteller will be dress and costume, posture and movement, face and body. If only I had a good example of that, I would show you. Well, I think I do. And then, of course, there's effective use of props. There's something that's not part of you. And then there's blocking, which we'll talk about briefly, and then images and videos. Now, as I said, if only I had a good suggestion for showing the dress, costume, posture, and voice. Well, of course, this being Lab Storymasters, you probably remember these two people. And this ridiculous costume and the ridiculous accents they put on, and Brenda playing the Hans and the Franz and telling Wes Pepper he was a little girly man. It was silly and it was fun. But I think it made some laughter, yeah? So there's a good example of that sort of thing. Now, stop sharing. I participated in a district humor speech contest over in another district a few years ago. And I had made it all the way to the district with my speech. And I was competing against a man named Raul Munoz. who one or two of you might know. Very funny man. And his speech was all about how to make earning your DTM more exciting, which for a Toastmaster audience seems creates a little bias in the judges, but what can you say? And one of the things he did to augment his humor, he was saying we need to have ways of really enticing people to earn the DTM. And one of them is by, you can only get certain tattoos if you earn your DTM, like this. And he pulls up his sleeve and he's got a beautifully DTM drawn onto his shoulder. Of course, it was with Sharpie, so he can go home and wash it off. But it was funny and he got to laugh. Darn it, because he beat me. All that. The point is, you can use your body, you can use your face, you can use your costume, you can use your posture to augment your story or augment your humor. And let's talk very briefly about props. This is not a prop. This is medicine. It's just water. I watched a humorist talk about Star Wars. You know, the Star Wars, the sci-fi program. And of course, if you're going to talk about Star Wars, you have to talk about the lightsabers. Now, he did not have one of those toy lightsabers. He had a microphone. And so all he did, I don't have a microphone, but I've got this little thing. All he did was hold his microphone and make the noises of the lightsaber, not unlike what Mary was just telling us about. Vroom, vroom, vroom. It was very funny and very amusing, but more to the point, he let the audience imagination, he gave the audience just enough information to spark their imagination. They could imagine the lightsaber. If they've seen the movie, then they can imagine the lightsaber. They don't need a big plastic toy lightsaber. And if he'd had a big plastic toy lightsaber, people would have been thinking in their head, my, that lightsaber looks like crap. So it's better to let them imagine it and just give them a few verbal indications and some sound effects to create the visual that they want. So if you're going to have props, you have to keep them simple and keep them from distracting the audience. Let's talk about blocking. So I have a laboratory, and I'm going to talk to you. Here I am in the back, for me on the left, maybe for you on the right. I'm talking to you from my laboratory. Now here is me running across a field, being pursued by villagers with pitchforks and torches. And here is me hiding in a closet, hoping that the monster and the villagers and my wife don't find me. Now you notice I do that in each place. Laboratory, being pursued by villagers, hiding. Now, if you were on a 40-foot stage, you would start on one side and move over to the other. But we're on the Zoom, so we just use a little bit of space. But that's called blocking, where you assign a location or a time, or maybe even emotional state to one area. And anytime I talk about being on my laboratory, I'm back here. And anytime I'm talking about being chased by villagers, I'm over here, and so forth. Now let us talk about the gentleman. I saw the keynote. He would tell his stories, and maybe their stories were a little bit funny, but his stories were always building up to a punchline, and the punchline was a photo. Now, a lot of his stories were about his upbringing, because he was a Korean boy adopted by Norwegian parents in Minnesota. And he was the only Asian child growing up in that town. He had a lot of stories about being different. I'm going to share with you my screen again. It helps if you share your screen before you move. Okay, there we go. Now, you spend time telling a story and using word pictures. And word pictures are a wonderful way of enhancing your story. But sometimes a picture can help too. My wife and I, we honeymooned in Ireland on the southwest coast, which is the cliffs of Moher. And these cliffs, beautiful cliffs, 700 feet tall, going for miles and miles. And I could tell you that, and you go, oh, that's interesting, but it's not as impressive as this photo. And this is a photo I took, and you can see my wife giving me a very funny look as I suggest she move a little bit closer to the edge to make the photo better. I'm not sure what the look is saying. I've never understood that. But the cliffs are quite impressive, no? Now, how else can you add visual humor, visual impact to your storytelling? Well, I tried to do what I saw this keynote speaker do. I went back home to my Toastmaster club, and I decided to do a meeting called, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I would set up the joke, and the joke was always visual. So, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you really want to do that? And sometimes a joke required a little bit of setup. Are you really sure you want to do that? What could possibly go wrong? Or this one. I don't want to lug the TV up 3 flights of stairs. Hey, I've got an idea. And this one. Are you really positive you want to do that? We need to cut this board, and we don't seem to have a sawhorse. Hey, I've got an idea. Now, all of this is what I've been talking about. All of this is about using visuals to add impact to humor and to storytelling. And the Toastmastering technique I talked about, that I use humor as pictures as the punchline, worked very well. I've been asked to do it at other clubs. I've been asked to take it on the road. But there is one key thing you must remember. There's one key question you must ask yourself. The key question to doing this right. Does the visual add to my impact rather than diminish it? Does it add rather than diminish it? You must ask this question. For instance, I prepared this ridiculous costume for you tonight. This ridiculous costume, this turtleneck and this obviously false beard. I prepared these for you so that I could make you laugh. But is it distracting and is it ruining, adding to my impact or not? Put on your mad scientist lab coat. Go into your clubs and try it out. Experiment. See if you get a laugh, a chuckle, a guffaw. And if it doesn't, try it differently. Change it and try it again. That's what being a mad scientist is all about, is attaching electrodes to things and seeing if they jump. And if they don't, crank up the voltage and do it again. Back to you, Mr. T-Mom.
Thank you very much, Kyle, for that great display, or should I say, metaphor scientist. Okay, let's take a couple seconds to write some comments for Kyle as we get ready to move into our next speakers. And I like the way that Kyle referred to Mary's speech. I think while Mary was doing her speech, she was also doing visuals that went along with the sound effect. It's almost like we do that once we become good speakers. We automatically are doing our gestures and our voices together. So that's cool. But it's great to hear both speeches focusing on the one element. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to our practice speakers. And coming up first, we have, let's see, okay. Life between taking care of kids and taking care of parents can be difficult at best. In today's speech, our speaker will be looking at the latter, taking care of parents and why it is so difficult. She is a member of 3 clubs and has earned her DTM. She has been a Toastmaster for over 10 years, is looking forward to many more years as a Toastmaster. Let's give a warm welcome to the speech titled, Why Is This So Hard? Distinguished Toastmaster Cynthia Sanderson.
Why does this have to be so damn difficult? My sister Tricia asked on a recent emergency Zoom meeting. My 3 sisters and I were planning my mother's 81st birthday celebration. Coordinating our schedules for a Zoom call practically takes an act of Congress, let alone 3 days away from our families. We booked an Airbnb and on Hartstein Island near Shelton. My sister Tammy planned it all down to the meticulous detail of including the fabulous gourmet detail menu. We even coordinated taking 2 cars for 5 people, the luggage, mom's wheelchair, and the food. The house had a ramp for ease of accessibility, a nice fireplace to turn the space into a hot box for both for the rest of us, and a nice, cozy, warm atmosphere for my mother. A gourmet kitchen for Tammy to cook in, and we were going to play games, and Tammy even planned a craft project to torture the rest of us with. The drive was only 1 hour from Mom's house. In short, it was perfect. The only problem? None of us told Mom about it. When Debbie, the sister who lives with my mom, talked to her about it, it was 3 weeks out. Hey, Mom, we're going to go away for your birthday. No, April would be better. We've got it all planned. Everyone's taking Friday off, and we'll eat, play games, and have fun. It's too cold. I don't want to go. You go. Okay, but when I get in the car with my sisters and we head up the driveway without you, then how will you feel? Well, I'd feel bad. Fine, I will go, but I don't want to celebrate my birthday. Debbie didn't know what to think. She didn't want to force Mom to do anything she didn't want to do. She called the emergency Zoom meeting where Tricia expressed her frustration. The interesting thing is every Friday afternoon, I go over to Mom's house to spend time with her. Previously, on one of those trips, Mom told me she was lucky to have children who want to spend time with her. She knew how hard it was to get together and was flexible. Anytime, anywhere, anyhow, she would be there. The Friday following the emergency Zoom meeting, I cautiously broached the subject. So your birthday's coming up soon. Yes, I can hardly wait to celebrate. Do you want to go away? Yes, I can go anytime. It's you 4 that need to schedule it. Do you want it to be about your birthday? I would be most upset if we did not celebrate my birthday. Okay, we've rented an Airbnb near Shelton. It's only an hour away and we'll take 2 cars and your chair. Oh no, I don't want to take 2 cars. Somebody misses out on the conversation and we are not taking my chair. I'll just lean against one of you. Ay, ay, ay. I hurried and called the Zoom meeting. I texted my sisters on GroupMe and apparently about mom changing her mind and wanting to take only 1 car. Apparently my sister Tammy didn't read all the texts because she missed the part about taking 1 car and mom not taking her wheelchair. She shows up in her Ford Flex with half her kitchen plus luggage packed in the back. She was flinging Dutch ovens, torches, salad spinners to make room, for nothing was spared. She included her luggage. She dumped her suitcase and put everything in a shopping bag. Well, it worked out. We went in 1 car, we fit in, and a great time was had by all. Why does this have to be so damn difficult? Because life is messy. It's not easy getting old, and losing your independence becomes frightening. Aging is not for sissies. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Cynthia. Let's take a few seconds to write some comments for Cynthia, so we do a round robin later. While we're writing some notes, Helen, why don't you go ahead and come on mute, and let's see if we can hear you okay?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
you sound good. Okay,
Thank
you look good. All righty.
Yeah.
So we're going to go on to our practice speaker number 2, and did you have any intro at all, Helen? What do you plan on doing today?
Do you have my speech title? The title is I'm Not a Funny Guy.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Did you send that in email or? Okay, it's okay.
I thought I put it in the agenda. If I did not, I apologize to Helen.
Oh yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Well, I'm not a funny guy. That's the title of your speech, and you're going to do a 5 to 7 humorous speech. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. We're going to get a 5 to 7 minute humorous speech from Helen He. Let's give a warm welcome to Helen He. She's not a funny guy.
I confess, I'm not a funny guy. But I always trying to be funny. Why? Because I see so many funny people easily gain favor of others and being well liked. I really admire their abilities to make people laugh and make a positive impact on them. The challenge is, how can I become funnier? Last year, I attended a stand-up comedy training. I learned variety techniques of being humorous. I attend each classes, I finished assignments, and I practiced applying the human techniques like exaggerating, like creating the conflict situations, like having different accents, and more. One day, my teacher shared with us a top secret. The key to humor lies in creating the resonance, combining a touch of melancholy with a viewpoint or attitude, such as stupidity, oddity, difficulty, and fear will help you to make a deep connection with audience. After class, I started to think about my relevant experience. Something old, something stupid, something difficult, and something fearful. Imagine if one's life just meets one or two of them, how pitiful the people will be. Am I the right person? But after 1 whole week of hard thinking, I finally find I have an experience that meets these criteria. Not one of them, two of them, three of them, but all of them. That was happened in 2022. I got infected COVID in US. Now I think most people will got infected COVID by their lungs, but I got it in US. And I become pretty sick, so I want very much to go back home. Who didn't want to go back to their sweet home and for safety, for shelters at their weakest time, right? But I got to know finally from the China embassy that they ask every passenger to give the proof of negative test result before they onboard in the flights. So I become very devastated. I could not come back home. Come on, how I wish I could come back home and my mom and real Chinese food. So I keep writing and share my stuff with my teacher. He looked at it and nodded the head. You got it, Helen. You applied this stupidity in your material. When you overly pursue this psychological safety, you eventually lost a sense of rationality and a sense of security. Good job. Wow, motivated by his words, I feel very happy about that. I started writing more and finished my script. And he said, give yourself a chance to perform it. So I contacted my club VPE, helped me to arrange a time to deliver a humor speech. And he agreed. And the club even made a poster on me saying, hey, come to watch Helen's humorous image. Whew, lots of pressure there. I reassure myself by my teacher saying, there are good jokes and I'm able to make them laugh. The big day finally came. I came on the stage and I see my audience. They are full of curiosity. And I said in my heart, you are going to be amazed. I started to deliver my weird experience in America in 2022. I emphasized on each word, slowly and intensely, making sure everyone got it, and very much looking forward to a roar of laughter from them. So I waited and waited and waited, and only heard a few scattered trucks from the crowd. And I feel so disappointed. Come on, why are you laughing? Did I deliver it not good? Or does the material not funny enough? After I spoke, my evaluator came on the stage. He is a very famous critic. So he said, Helen, it's clear you put some efforts in writing the script. You took it seriously. But when you spoke, your posture, your volume pitch went very high. I cannot help but see you as an image of a Toastmaster leader. It sounds very hard for you to get that image. In my heart, you're always the queen. With he saying that, a big loud laughter was burst out of the audience, and the volume of the laughter was strong enough to hit the roof off. Thinking about a conflict situation, I'm just trying to be funnier, but the laughter was coming from my evaluator. I will finally become someone who can make people laugh, but that does not come from me. Oh no, it does come from me, from my contradictory and contrasting image I presented. Am I supposed to be happy for finding this fact? 1 year later, when I look back and review what happened, I remember what teacher told me. It's okay to pursue psychological safety, but when you're pursuing too much, it leads you to lose a sense of rationality and leaving you with no security. Wasn't that true in my speaking experience? It's okay to pursue being liked and being able to make love. But when you're pursuing too much, you actually lose a sense of authenticity, leaving you without a true self. It's okay to try to make love with ease, but when you're pursuing too much, it leads you to lose the balance and leaving you without ease. Now today, I'm still striving to be funny, but this time I choose to join Lab Toastmaster Club and choose to be one who can make laughter with ease because I'm a not funny guy. Yet, back to Tianmi.
Thank you very much, Helen. I totally agree. You're not a funny guy. You are a funny gal. That's what I'm saying. Good job. Let's take a little bit of time and put some comments down for Helen later. And at this time, I believe we're going to go ahead and take our break right now. We have Helen, there's Phil. Okay, my fellow Laugh Lab Storymasters. We don't have any of those pesky guests with us tonight, so we can be darn right honest. Okay, let's go into our evaluation session, and to lead us in that, we have none other than infatigable Philip Person. Let's give a warm welcome to Phil. Get off mute, Phil. There we go.
Thank you, T-Mom, for that great introduction. Tonight, we're going to have another one of our meetings where we have multiple evaluators. Each evaluator, it will have a story evaluation, a content and effectiveness evaluation, and a humor evaluation. Each evaluator has 3 to 5 minutes. On the agenda, it shows 4 minutes, so if you can hit 4 minutes, that'd be awesome. And we will go forward on that. I will just introduce the next evaluator, and then you launch into your feedback for the speaker. For speaker number 1, Cynthia, our story evaluation will come from none other than the world traveler Karen McNamara, who we heard her trials and tribulations of earlier. Karen.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. And thank you especially, Cynthia, for sharing your story truly of life. Some of the challenges we have in life. Why does this have to be so hard? I'm looking at the storytelling behind your speech tonight. When I look at story, I think of looking for an opening, a body, a conclusion. I look for character development, and I look for a conflict that leads to a climax, that leads to some sort of an outcome. You were trying to work with your sisters to have an 81st birthday. One of the real strengths I liked was that you did have several characters, and you set us up right away that you knew there was a problem because there was an emergency meeting. Okay, you know something's wrong, you know you're setting the stage, there's going to be a conflict, an issue, something's going to be awry. Now, when I look at the flow of your story, I did not find it a typical story where you start out and you build and build and build, reach a climax, and then come back down. It didn't go that way. It was a little bit more of an up and down and back and forth.
And that can be used to your advantage when you're talking about someone who's getting older and getting confused. I think that that can be very powerful. I felt in the development of your story, it was a little hard to follow that. And so I would recommend that you make that build up of the conflict a little bit clearer. And the way that you might do that is in your character development. If you take each one of your sisters and your mom and you think, okay, what is distinct about them? Does your mom always hunch over? Does your mom wear a hat? Are her glasses down? What is it that's different about your mom so that every time her character is speaking, you accentuate that characteristic, similar to what we were hearing and seeing with our 2 education sessions tonight. And then you can also use your voice to be a little bit different than it was, or a different part of your stage for each character. I had a little trouble sometimes telling which sister was talking and where they were flowing. So I would work on your stage and your voice, and then find something distinctive about each character. And then when you're telling your story, just take us right through the events. How did it start? How did it go? You can do a flashback if you start at the beginning and have a little bit at the end like you did, but then say, okay, this is what it was like. Okay, 3 weeks out, we did this. And then you start to develop it. And all of a sudden you're saying, okay, this is going, oh no, inserts mom, all's off. We go, now we redo, inserts mom. Ah, it's all changed again. Here we go, birthday, no clue what's going to happen. And then you have your event and you see how it ends up in the end, and your mom loves everyone and you have the difference. So that I can follow the emotion and the characters every step of the way through your story. That's how I might strengthen it. I think all of the pieces are there. It was just a little bit of the flow of the story to build me in emotion and connect with you, because I have a 96-year-old mom. I get it. One day it's this, the next day it's that. So I understand, you want a wheelchair, you don't want a wheelchair, you want a party, you don't. So love the story, very applicable. Great job. Thank you once again for sharing a little piece of your life and your challenge. And I will turn it back to Mr. Toastmaster.
I think I'll take it since Mr. T Mom is so busy doing the timing. I'll just grab it from here. Thank you very much, Karen, for that great evaluation of the story and feedback. Now we're going to turn it over to Mary Morrison, our very own club president, for an evaluation of the content and effectiveness, if you can say it, evaluation.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. And just to be really clear, do you want me to turn it to you, or do you want me to turn it to the next evaluator when I'm done?
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess to be most efficient, just turn it to the next evaluator.
All right,
Yeah,
that'll be
that'd
Lee.
great.
Terrific. All right, thank you. So I had the task of evaluating, Cynthia, your speech on content and effectiveness. And I love this. I love this speech because this is, I think, the 2nd or 3rd time I've heard an iteration of it. And I have got to see its progression. And I love how you have incorporated so much of the feedback you've already gotten. So we can get into some real nitty-gritty stuff, right? To help you get it even better. Here's what I loved about, I paid a lot of attention to transitions and how you used them to continue to tell the story. You opened with a question, which was a question that we could relate to. I didn't write it down. I was really bad about it, but I know you opened with a question. I think it was something like, why does this have to be so hard? And then you immediately set us up with the situation. You talked a lot then, I think it was Tammy, who's the coordinator, and gave us a lot of information about how she was setting up this, in short, you called it the perfect situation, except transition, none of us had told mom about it. So it was a great transition to like your second story in which you did a dialogue between Debbie and your mom. transition emergency Zoom meeting, which resulted in Debbie calling an emergency Zoom meeting. That was a good transition again. And then more planning went on. You had some inside information of your mom. You kind of went into a narrator mode. You replayed a conversation you'd had with your mom, and which resulted in you calling an emergency meeting. Awesome. But Tammy, the organizer missed a message. So boom, 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 all the planning, no matter what happened at the end, all of these changes occurred. So great transitions because you narrated some of it, you did character on some of it. Here's what I think I would like to see you incorporate for the next time I hear it. I say this because I have 5 sisters. Each of my sisters, there are non-family, there are clues to how we behave together that make us think we're hysterical. We're hysterical. All I have to say is, Tammy missed the message. And we would burst out laughing because we know Tammy's the organized one. Ha, ha, ha. What's Tammy doing? Missing our message. I think if you could set right up front, my 3 sisters and I have this, with our mom, have this incredible relationship of we know who's who and who plays what role, because Tammy's the organizer. Debbie's the empathetic one. I don't know what they all are, but if you could like just really like in 3 or 4 sentences in your opening, set us up for who these sisters' personalities are, I think then we're part of your family and we know exactly why it's so ironic that Debbie missed the message. Right? Because that to me was funny. I mean, I got it why it was funny. She missed it. Anyway, that's what I love that your callback at the end was, why does this have to happen? Because life is messy. Why does it have to be messy? Because life is messy. Because we love each other, kind of. I mean, I love it. Awesome job. Thank you for sharing. And over to you, Lee.
Thank you very much, Mary. That was great. Right to the point. You were right on time, which is good. Go ahead and time myself. I'm going to talk about humor today, Cynthia. And here's what I want you to remember. Where's Cynthia? There she is. Humor is precision. That's what I want you to remember. And Mary said something I was going to say. I believe this was the second time I heard you do this speech. And I want to say the first time you delivered it, I think I was laughing all the way through because of the way you delivered it. Today, I'm going to be real honest here. You looked a little tired today. And when you first started on your speech, you kept looking to one side to read the notes. So let me talk about those 2 points because you're going to need to overcome those to be humorous. If you're feeling non-energetic, do something before the meeting. Get up and move around, do some jumping jacks, eat some sugar, drink some coffee, shoot up. No, don't do that. But you know what I'm saying? Get yourself a little bit going because we have to tell ourselves, we are speakers. We're storytellers, we're humorous. We are a show and the show must go on. So we always have to put ourselves in that mindset. I'm speaking tonight. I got to put on a show no matter how tired I am or whatever. So that the next point, real simple. When you have to read notes, just move and you're on Zoom, you put the notes right under the camera. You don't have to see the gallery. Move the gallery off to the side. If you have 2 monitors, great. Put one monitor up. That's where the gallery goes. And you look at your notes right under the camera and you can just read the notes and we won't even see your eyes. Because I think that would have helped you with your humor tonight because sometimes you lost what words you wanted to say. And if you remember when I talked about humor before, the setup must be very simple. It must be not funny. And every word must be very clear because then you're going to come in with the punchline. So when you have to stumble over a word, we've kind of lost what the setup was, right? So the precision. And then let's talk about what Mary and Kyle did today. This is so important for humor. Making sounds. Have you ever been in a speech contest and the speaker just does a gesture or makes a sound and the entire audience laughs, busts up laughing? That's the skill. That's the art form that we want. That way we can be visual without being auditory, and the way we can make a sound that's not words to be humorous. So I'm going to say those are my big points for you. Get ready for the show, even though sometimes we don't feel the energy. We got to do whatever we can, and let's get ourselves set up so you can do your notes. And it's okay to read notes. It is absolutely okay to read notes. If you have good material on there, we want to hear your material. And then over time, if you're going to do this for a contest, you get that speech so well prepared. And then one other thing I will mention, and I've heard it, I think 3 times tonight, I've heard 3 what we call blue language. And your first line that Mary wanted to say was, why does this have to be so damn hard? I think let's change that word to darn hard. Because what if we have some kids in the audience when we're at a speech contest, right? So let's make it always family friendly. If you can be funny, being family friendly, I used to follow Jerry Seinfeld before he became famous. And I love this guy. He came in with slacks, a blazer, a tie, and he never used foul language. He never used kind of going off into different topics that some people get uncomfortable with. That's when you know you're a true humorist, is when you can make people laugh with just clean language. Another guy like that that's been on TV recently is Kevin James. If you ever watch him do his comedy, very clean and just what I call observational comedy, where you're just, and you had the observational comedy today because you're talking about Alzheimer's. And a lot of us in this room have parents with Alzheimer's. So we are automatically drawn into you. And what's cool about it is you're saying stuff that we have seen, but when you show us from a different angle how you dealt with it, that's when we find that really humorous. Why did I never think of that when my dad does that? And I know Karen's thinking the same thing about her mother. So this is a great speech to do humor. I think today you didn't have your energy level today. And I think that kind of played into the humor aspect. But I say this is a speech you could definitely continue to hone and do in a contest. So don't give this one up and get everything to be really precise. Humor is precise, visual, and it's auditory. And I will now turn it over. Let's just do an overall. Anybody have any comments you want to make about Cynthia's speech today of any of the 3 areas? Any of the other? Okay, if not, I'm going to turn it over to Phil. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Kyle.
A couple of things. I've heard the speech. I like the speech. I like what you're developing. I think it needs a little more development. I think the point I want to hit the most is the ending, because the ending the ending you gave is, you said life is, and I lost the word.
Hard.
I didn't think, well, okay, whatever it was, I lost it. And then you said, and growing old is not for sissies, I think, which is a t-shirt or saying that's been around for a while. I think you need to add to that because it seems a little, I want to say trite. It may not be the right word, but it seems a little generic to say life is not for sissies. I think you need to answer the question why it's hard. And I think the answer is growing old is not for sissies. It's hard because we care for the person for which we're caring. And that's my answer to that question. I think you should think about adding that to the end. One possible use of humor. You had at least 2, if not 3, emergency family meetings on Zoom. That's FMOS. So you could say, we had to have another FMOS, emergency family meeting on Zoom. And I agree with Karen. I wanted to see you role play your sisters. And I agree with both. I agree with both Karen and Mary. I wanted to see you role play your sisters and really exaggerate them. I bet your sister, who brought half her kitchen, was really frustrated and was sighing or complaining when she had to unpack everything. I bet she didn't do it in silence. And there's a boatload of humor there.
Yeah. How am I going to cook this omelet with mom's wheelchair? There you go. But I want to build on what Kyle said as his first point, where growing old is not for sissies. Life is hard. Give another line right after that. The good news, it's short, and let them think of a different way of looking at the hardness of life. I'm going to turn it back over to Phil now.
Thanks very much for everybody that gave great feedback to Cynthia. And now we're going to move to our second speaker, practice speaker. And I have the honor of doing the first evaluation with the story evaluation. Helen, a great story, and I'm going to look at it through the lens of that storytelling and how it all kind of fit together and what worked for me, and maybe some suggestions that might even kick it up to the next level, maybe from my perspective. You do have a good storyline, and the storyline is you. Who knows you better than you, but yourself. I think that's an opportunity that you can grow into. You had other characters, but really the main character is you. I'd like to see you really expand on that and all of the inner turmoil that comes along with being you and what you want to become as far as being humorous. And that leads into the conflict. The conflict is, again, in you because you want to be funny, but you think you're not. So how do you juxtapose those? How do you get through that? How do you overcome that, not the feeling that you're not funny monster, that monster that's within you? So that's the conflict. You did a great job on that. And I'd like to see you keep that theme going from each story to the next so that you can show how you are developing or are going to develop, or however the story is going to eventually play out in your ultimate finale at the end. You had a couple of really excellent word pictures that added to your story that everybody could relate to, and it gave. I'm going to kind of cheat and get into the humor part, but it gave me a pretty good chuckle too. Your whole story about getting COVID and getting it not at your home, but in the U.S., and then getting stuck in the U.S. Many of us can at least relate to being stuck somewhere where we didn't really want to be. And that's a great conflict. I think that that's an opportunity for you there. I laughed out loud, honestly, when you said you wanted to go home and see your mother back to China where they have really have Chinese food. I laughed out loud when you said, I don't think you said that exactly, but it was that, and it made me guffaw at loud laughter, even though I was on mute. So had I been in the audience, I'm sure you would have heard me laughing. I thought it was really good. An area where I think that could improve is that we didn't have a lot of dialogue in your story. From what I heard, even though there's dialogue going on in your head, there's dialogue going on with your evaluator who said the funny thing during his evaluation of your speech. There's a lot of opportunities for dialogue, and I think that can play up, especially the dialogue that's in your head. I want to be funny, but I'm not. And that story will even grow more. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our second evaluator, Karen, who's going to talk about the content and effectiveness evaluation. Content and effectiveness. Sorry.
Thank
Karen.
you very much, Phil, and especially you, Helen. Thank you for sharing with us tonight. Adding on to what Phil said and looking at it from a content and effectiveness perspective, I agree that the story is about you. The content is about you and how you were trying to learn to be funny because you felt you were not funny. And your story of how you did that by watching a stand-up comedian, by taking classes and then practicing and then going and then still feeling like you weren't funny. And then you would have these pauses. And I thought that you were very effective when you talked about how you emphasized and spoke slowly so everyone understood. And then you talked about how you were sort of juxtaposed or had one picture of you, but truly it was a contradictive image. Perhaps you did that with your title when you said, I'm not a funny guy versus I'm not a funny gal. Was that purposeful? I don't know, but it may have been, because that is funny. And you could even end it that way. No, I'm not a funny guy. I'm a funny gal. And you could even say that at the end. I think I think the main message that I took home from you is that when you try too hard, you lose your authenticity. And I think that's such a powerful lesson, because probably everyone in this group has done that. We want to be funny. We want to tell a great story. We want to get that humor in there, and something dies on the vine. Or we think it's funny and they don't. Or, we've all experienced it. And I think that lesson is really powerful, because when we work too hard and aren't natural, we lose that. So I think you, speaking about your home country and the COVID and the switching, that was probably some of your funniest areas, because it was juxtaposed. You were in the wrong place. How could I be sick in another country? This is wrong. And then I couldn't even get home, and what you felt. And then how you practiced, and then you weren't sure if it was funny. So what do? You come to Laugh Lab Storymasters. I love it. And I think that's very powerful too, because what you're saying is, okay, I'm making steps, I'm moving forward, I'm getting funnier, but I want to do more. And I love that. So I think from a content perspective, that was very positive. I think you can work on your story to emphasize the individual points a little bit more, and that'll make the content come out even more. That I can try. It would be fun to be able to walk away from this kind of a talk and say, okay, I'm going to try these 3 things that she did, because they made hers funnier. Because you gave examples of little pieces of humor, and then you can tie that to your point and make it so that we walk away, we say, oh, there's her point about giving a different image, and here's how she showed it. So just pulling that together a tiny bit more. But I really loved the way you choreographed it. I loved the story. And I think that we all can really identify and take away that very strong message about not trying so hard that we lose who we are, because it was about you. Thank you, Helen. And now I turn it over to, who I turn it over to?
Me.
Kyle, for humor.
Thank you. Now, I have an advantage the rest of you don't have, which is I got to see the script of this yesterday. I want to point out a couple of things to all of you. So I saw 3 bits of humor in her speech, and I want to point them out. So there was I caught COVID in the US. I thought people caught COVID in the lungs. I caught it in the US. That's wordplay. That's classic wordplay. I do have a suggestion for improving it. Then there was I want to go home. I wanted to go back to China, to my home, to my mother, to real Chinese food. That's the rule of 3. That's using the rule of 3. And I, as Phil pointed out, that works. Again, I have a suggestion. Then there was I tried to give a humor speech, and my evaluator got all the laughs. That's irony. So 3 different types of humor built in there, and that's good. Now, some suggestions for the wordplay. I was thinking about it after the fact, and you said, I caught COVID in the USA. I thought people caught it in the lungs. I caught it in the USA. Because USA is in there twice, it lessens the impact of the joke. So what I would do is I would rephrase it, and it's like, I would start out with, most people catch COVID in their lungs. I caught it in the USA. And make sure you use USA, because that identifies it as the United States of America as opposed to US, which could be a number of things. So I would think I would phrase it that way. Pause before you say USA. Most people catch COVID in their lungs. I caught it in the USA. The rule of three. You said, I don't remember the exact phrasing, but I want to go home where, I want to go back to China, to my home, to my mother. Longer pause, to real Chinese food. And that pause is important, but so is the emphasis of the desire for real Chinese food, I'm assuming American Chinese food is crap compared to real Chinese food. I'm just making that assumption. But if it is, whether you agree with it or not, if you want to make it funny, just put a little desire in that real Chinese food. Put it in your voice. For your evaluator, the irony is good. Did he come across as arrogant when he evaluated you? You think he did? Okay. I was hoping he hadn't, because if he hadn't come across as arrogant, you could be frustrated that he wasn't even arrogant when he said it. I'll have to think about that. So my primary suggestions for enhancing this is extend the pauses before the punchline. The real Chinese food, I caught it in the USA. Extend the pauses. There was conflict there. I tried to be funny, and my evaluator got the laughs. Make the pause a little longer. It'll come naturally over time, but right now you're going to have to think about it. And exaggerate your feelings. Exaggerate the desire for the real Chinese food. Exaggerate how frustrated you were with the audience that they weren't laughing. Why? You did that fairly well. Why aren't you laughing? You can't get too big. Why aren't you laughing? Isn't the material good, or did I deliver it badly? You can use a whiny voice. Excuse me. Anyway, so those are my two biggest things. Oh, the other thing is Karen, or I think it was Karen, talked about you said you talked slowly and intensely. Well, if you're going to tell us you talk slowly and intensely, you have to talk slowly and intensely, like you did when, in order for us to feel that. And that we're gonna know right away, oh, she just stole all the humor right out of it. If she's talking slowly and intensely, all the humor just flowed away. So you can show us one of the things that killed your humor, even though you weren't aware of it at the time. Those are my suggestions. Thank you for coming. I know it takes courage to stand up, come to Laugh Lab, and to try to do a humorous icebreaker first time out. Well done. So, and I'm going to hand control back to our general evaluator, Phil.
Thank you, Kyle, and thank you to both of our speakers tonight and our presenters, two presenters. Well done. We have an opportunity now to do some grammatical observations on the agenda. Does anyone have any grammatical, counter grammar kind of observations from any part of the meeting tonight? We didn't have a word of the day, so I can't report on that. I know of.
Anything to say about my wonderful grammar?
Yeah, I did enjoy that. I didn't notice. One thing I did notice on Kyle was that you slipped in and out of your wonderful speech.
I tried.
Wonderful accent.
One of my challenges was, could I maintain the accent for 12 minutes? Apparently not.
I was impressed with how long you did maintain the accent, though. You'd slip a little and then you'd get back in it.
I agree. I was impressed with that. It's one of the areas that I'm working on, because I'm not successful at doing a lot of different characters or accents, but I'm trying to get a couple where I can get it. And staying for the long haul is one of the most challenging parts. You slip back into your own voice, and you actually maintained that character. And I thought the dress was very good. I thought it told you crazy scientist, and I liked that, and it was a fun way to come out, and it brought us in right away. I thought that was very effective.
Awesome. Excellent feedback. I'll switch into my general evaluator comments at this point very briefly. I thought, first of all, I want to thank both of the presenters, Kyle and Mary, for not only giving us good information, but actually doing and showing and being your presentation. And Kyle, you're going in and out of your accent. I didn't know if you were doing that purposefully or not. And so I assumed it was a purposeful change in how you presented because you wanted to emphasize your point or some other item that you were doing. So I thought that was excellent. But the main strength for both of you is that you not only told us, but you showed us, which made it even better for our development. Thank you to all the speakers. I really enjoyed hearing your speech, and it gave us good fodder for really getting into the evaluation and to the evaluators for all of your feedback on their speeches. What I thought was really most helpful is that each evaluator gave some very specific and very pointed suggestions on how to kick it up to the next level on either humor or storytelling, maybe both. That's really important to give each other some feedback that's given in love, but maybe not always positive feedback. I'd like to really see us even bring that up to the next level next time we give each other some feedback. Those are my general comments. Are there any comments from the floor? Yes, Lee, T-Mom.
Does anybody else have any comments? I can just do mine as the wrap up as the Toastmaster if you want. Go ahead, Karen.
I was just going to say, Mary, on yours, I loved, again, like others have said, the demonstration of the sounds and the actions and the way that you can do things. I think that helps us see, not just hear how to do it, but see it. And one of the things that I was hoping you might do tonight, because it's an area that I would love to learn in, is thinking about radio. So if I didn't get to see you and I could only hear you, how would I know what was happening in the scene? So how do you make the sound of a squeaky floor or a knock on a door? Or how do you use your microphone to make certain weird sounds? Or things like breaking glass. How would I make the sound of breaking glass? And how would I make the sound of wind, like a big windstorm, something like that? What could I do? A train whistle. What are some of the tools that I can use as a speaker to bring some of those sound effects in? I can think of them, but I don't know necessarily which tool to use to make that exact sound. So in a future session, I would love to, if some of you know those things, when Kyle first put out, we're going to do these two areas of, good, I really want to learn in this area. And I did. I learned tonight from both of you. And that was one of the other things that I thought would be really fun to learn more about, because I'm a novice at that. So just wanted to make that general comment.
I'll make a couple comments on Helen's speech, what kind of building off what Kyle said. I'll change it a little bit. When Kyle was talking about in the USA, so what you say is I get COVID in the lungs, but I got it in the USA. I think Kyle said in the USA. You want the last word, the punchline, to be off by itself. And then when you talk about going back home to your home country, to your mom, and to real Chinese food, well, there, we just call it food, right? That would be funny for some people, right? Do you go out to Chinese food when you're in China? Helen? No, yeah. So I think the audience may find that to be funny too. Would you like me to do the timers report, Mr. General Evaluator?
Please do, thank you.
So Mary's speech, 9:33, 8 to 10. I thought Kyle's was also going to be 8 to 10. That's why you saw a long red light, but then I looked at the agenda and worked out the time. It was supposed to be 12 minutes. So he was just a little bit over. He was at 12:53. Cynthia, 5 to 7 was 7:25, so right in there by 5 seconds. Helen, you were at 7:47, so just a little bit long. Karen, evaluation, I was timing 2 to 4 minutes. You were 4:20, so that was good. Mary was right on at 4 because she has to show off that she's an international director and show us how it's done. And then Lee was 4:25, just 5 seconds off the max, so that was good. We're all on time there. Phil, when he did his evaluation, 3:11. Karen, 4:07. Kyle, 4:49. And Phil, as his general evaluation, was 1:50. And any final comments you want, Phil, as general evaluator?
No, thank you. I'll turn it all over to T-Mom.
Let's go with T-Mom. I am the mom tonight, and that's okay. I got to get in touch with my feminine side. I don't mind. I had a good mom as a role model, so I can use that. Here's what I want to say. Tonight, our two educational presenters, when we did our home club and worked on all that basic stuff, we learned about vocal variety. We learned about our physical presence, our facial expressions, our eyes, our gestures. But our two speakers tonight took it to another level. Mary's doing vocal variety, but she's just doing sound. And the best sound I ever heard in one of the world championship speakers is someone we brought to this club, Presyan Vasilov. He's going to fix his tire, and he goes into the trunk and he pulls out this rusty piece of metal, unused for centuries. Now there's the exaggeration because cars haven't been around for centuries, and it's the jack. And when he goes to use the jack, he makes this squeak sound, and it is so perfect, like you can almost hear it. And it was very slow. And then this other guy come later, and he does the jack really quickly, and he makes it higher pitch. I mean, that was a beautiful example of what Mary was talking about today. And when it comes to what we do in this club, storytelling and humor, we learned all the basic science of speaking, how to organize, how to use our voice, how to move. But here, if you want to be humorous, you have to practice it. It's an art form. People who want to be a comedian go to the open mic and they do it over and over again, and they start figuring out what jokes makes the audience laugh. And that's what you have to do too if you want to be a real humorist in Toastmasters. Go to as many clubs as you can with your speech and change your words around, change the suggestions that were given tonight, and you will start to become humorous. It was the most difficult thing for me to do as a Toastmaster, was to write a humorous speech on a blank piece of paper, but it can be done. So the last word on that is perseverance. Don't give up when they don't laugh at you. And what I've done in speeches, when they didn't laugh at my joke, I'll follow up with a line going, sometimes I just write these for me. And other times I say, you're going to get this on the drive home. Trust me. And I do like a hand grenade, right? So you can do things to cover up the lack of humor. Don't ever let it bother you. Just keep on moving through, or put a funny line in there afterwards. And that's all I'm going to say tonight on Sight and Sound. I thought we had a marvelous meeting, 7, but it seemed like we had 70. And I'm going to turn it back over to our illustrious president, international director, and our role model, Mary Morrison.
Thank you, Lee. Awesome job being Toastmaster tonight. I think Kyle has some homework for us he's going to share.
I
Couple of
do.
announcements and we'll wrap up. Yeah.
I do have some homework, and several people have mentioned the thing that I'm going to say. We need to practice. So what I want every single one of you to do is take a humorous talk you've done here. And between now and our next meeting in March, take it on the road. Go to another club, not your home club. Go to some other club, call them up and say, hey, I have a speech I'd like to practice. Can I come? And go and practice. And come back and tell us what the experience was like. Did you get laughter? Did you tell a good story? Did they get the message? Did you enjoy it? And I think the last thing I want to say, and this is to play off of what Lee said, humor, there is no right way to do humor. There's your way to do humor. And part of this journey is discovering your way to do humor. We can give suggestions and tips, but you got to take it out on the road and practice it and find out what the audience likes. And that's going to depend upon the way you deliver humor. And back to you, Madam President.
All right. Thank you. Helen, you've raised your hand. Is that yes?
Yes, yes. I just want to show my gratitude to all of you. I received so many invaluable suggestions, which I will take back and to prove myself. And also, I learned something from Lee that I want to give to Kaya, because I love Kaya's talk, I mean the workshop, especially in the end, you kind of call back the concept of laboratory when you play this scientist and doing experiment. And it reminded me, you know, in those movies, so scientists have this tube with different ingredients. And Lee beautifully said in Cynthia's evaluation, saying everyone may have different humor style because we are different person. We communicate in different style, and Cynthia is more fit for this observant humor, if I memory correct. So I'm thinking, you know, what if, you know, you can package your content by different style of humor and label it with different ingredients. You know, maybe for some introvert people, they are more fitting for this observant humor. And maybe for extrovert person, they are more fitting for exaggerating type of humor. Yeah, so just, you know, this idea is coming in my mind and I want to share with you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this wonderful meeting.
All
You
right,
know,
Helen, thank you. Yeah.
I was gonna say, you know, Kyle likes to exaggerate when he puts a mustache over his own mustache.
I kept trying to get closer. If I was in person with Kyle at that moment, you would have seen me like really glaring at like, what is that? Is that like paper? What did he do?
I bought
That
a
was
cheap
funny.
mad scientist wig, mustache, and eyebrow set.
Oh, it was good. Yeah. Uh-huh. The things you can pick up after Halloween, right?
I just wanted to say too, Happy New Year, Helen. I can't
Yeah.
believe you're here on New Year's Eve. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Happy
That's
New Year to you
wonderful.
all. I mean, the 2024 in China is a year of dragon, you know, which are
You're the
very
dragon.
auspicious.
Oh, awesome.
And the honeymoon to all of you, which wish you have a more prosperous and healthy new year.
Thank you. Yes, and you. I have just 3 things to share, and I will get these out in an email.